Good morning, everyone. How are we all? Good? I like it. I like it a lot. Well, welcome to our virtual cuppa for today. I'm really excited to share today. I think it's a really important topic for all of us. But before I get to that, today is a really good day. Do you know why? I'm going to the hairdresser. Yes! I've never been more excited to go to the hairdresser. So I am getting you can't probably tell, but I mean, you've probably seen my stories. My roots are like that long. And my hair, it's actually, Mike said it's two-toned, it's top deck. But my hair, like, it kind of like has worked with the waves today. This is literally, it's been in a mum bun for like 3 days, but it is so like, ugh, from Beck, so jealous.
Keep it long, isn't it right, Beck?
Oh, Lisa, your hair looks beautiful today. Yeah, it's actually, those days where it kind of just comes together. But Mark loves my hair long and he's like, don't get it cut. Whereas I feel like I've been in ISO and I feel like it's just, ugh, so think I'm going to go a big chop. Anyway, so I'm very excited. At 12:30, I'm going to go get my hair cut and coloured and, with a face mask, and you've got all the different things, but I don't freaking care. I'm going to the hairdresser. And oh, Holly got hers cut on Monday. So good. It's just that thing, when you like go through a breakup or something and you're like, I just need to go to the hairdresser and get my hair cut. Like, I feel like I just want to break up with ISO and I just want to be over. So I'm just going to get my hair cut and hopefully that all helps. In addition to that, a very exciting day. Well, actually, it was Monday, but you would have all seen the announcement. Oh, Mike's just going to zoom in or focus, I mean.
Go closer.
Go closer, he's saying. Oi, oh, yes. Um, Melissa just said my hairdresser has 97 people on the waiting list. Oh my gosh, far out. You think they'd be giving away free wine or something? So we shared our exciting news that we are releasing our limited edition Mums Who Wine Sparkling. So I'm sure you guys are all on it because you are awesome people. But if you haven't, join the VIP Mama list. Even if you're a member, the VIP Mama list, I'm sending out an email today, but I'm telling my peeps now, that will give you 24-hour pre-release before it goes to members. So if you want some, we're selling them in six cases of six. So, so you're not having to buy a full case, but it's just VIP mum. So yeah, and then, if you buy a case, it's Christmas sorted basically. You can have, present for you get some bubbles, you get some bubbles. So very, very exciting. Anyway, to the reason why I'm actually here, I will stop talking about alcohol because it is 11:06 a.m. But I really wanted to share on self-care is setting boundaries. And so, as you know, I've been running this series just because I think there's, self-care gets thrown around a lot, and even boundaries. I feel like the word, you just got to set some boundaries, and what are your boundaries like, and things like that. I feel like they're just thrown around so often, but I just want to kind of break it down and, as always, to share my experience, and hopefully that might inspire, might make you realize that you're not alone. And because I think it is a really, really important topic in talking about self care and looking after yourself, not only physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You need to know your boundaries. And so that, I think, is, if we're talking about self care, it kind of has to start with that. So I'm going to dive in. So welcome, ladies. PS, you guys know the drill. You're here. You're here every week. So boundaries. So boundaries define what is me and where do I stop and where someone else begins. So you think about, it's just the physical sense, like a house. Where are your boundaries? Where is the fence? Where is the gate? How do you know what is yours and what is someone else's? How do you know what you can do on your land or your house or whatnot? I mean, we can't do much at the moment, can we? We're stuck in our house and our boundaries. Our boundaries are pretty clear. They're now 25 kilometres, but it is okay. So, what is yours and what is someone else's? Boundaries also help us to understand the areas are not us, and therefore we're not responsible for. So I think that's something, and I'm just going to explain a little bit about it, then share about my personal experience. So I think as mums, and I know that I'm a shocker for this, we take on so much of everyone else's stuff. Hands up if you do that. And if you haven't put your hand up, you're a liar. We take it on, and it's a mother's heart. And I say this all the time: a mother's heart is to give, 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 to help, help, help. So we take on our children's stuff, we take on our partner's stuff, we take on our friends' stuff. But often the reason we do that is because we haven't actually set some clear boundaries as to what's your stuff that you need to deal with and what's someone else's. So you might feel for a person, but that doesn't mean you need to take on their stuff. So that's why it's important to have your boundaries. Boundaries help us know what we need to protect and look after and what we need to keep out. So similarly to a house, we keep out, we've got a fence, we've got a boundary so that we, can keep things out. We can keep people out that we don't want in, and also to protect our children, to keep them in, to keep them safe. So, with boundaries, what do we in ourselves need to keep safe? What do we need to look after? What do we need to keep sacred? And that's why we need to establish boundaries as to what we keep in and what we keep out. Boundaries are about respect. It's saying, here is what is okay for me, and here is what is not. And I think often we sometimes don't even sit down and think about, okay, well, what is okay? What is acceptable? What do I allow? I'm very mindful of what we allow into our house in terms of even just energy. Like if I've got someone who's be really open, like, a bit of a driller or a drainer or something like that, or real negative Nancy, I often like, I might go catch up with them or something, but even then, maybe not as much. But I don't want that energy coming into my house because my house is very sacred and, it's a very powerful thing. So you need to protect what is yours and what's in there. Um, so boundaries are not walls. We have fences, clear identifiable areas that are ours. So setting boundaries is not about feeling better, it's about getting better at feeling. So, this is a big thing that I've really wanted to work on with you guys and myself at the same time. It's actually about getting in touch with your emotions and taking the time to stop and self regulate. That's why we've been doing mindset sessions to actually go, okay, how am I feeling? Like on Monday, Amanda ran us through, and if you haven't checked out the session, do it. It was really great about doing a to-do list, which we all do as mums, as business women, as whatever we are, but actually check in on our emotions as we do it. So, how am I feeling today? Okay, I'm feeling unproductive. I'm feeling unmotivated. What's one thing I can do to shift in that? And then see how you feel. So, it's actually taking the time. So, if something happens and there's an emotion that brings up, like if someone says something and it really hits you, not just go, oh, well, that was a bit crap. Actually go, okay, why is that hitting me? Where is that going? Where's that coming from? And then you can actually identify it. And it might be because they have overstepped a boundary, or you don't have a boundary there and you need to put one in. Okay. So um, there's types of boundaries. So there's physical boundaries, obviously what you allow people touching you and, things like that. Um, Verbal boundaries, which is saying no. And that's a big thing. And we are going to get to that because that is something that I was not good at and still working on. Truth. So your own personal, I guess, your own personal values and your beliefs. So, for me, a lot of you know that I'm a Christian. I became a Christian when I was 22. None of my family are Christian. None of my friends were Christian. That's a story for another day. But when I made that decision, there were certain things that I had to shift my boundaries a bit because there was stuff that I was doing previously, which, I no longer wanted to do. There was ways that like my family were treating me or things we were saying or even the way I was talking. That's something that I wanted to shift. So I had to realign my boundaries based on my own values and my integrity. And that's something that we can all do, whether you've got a spiritual belief or not. Geographical distance, physically distancing yourself. Like if something's happening and someone's affected you or whatever, actually physically saying, okay, need a bit of time. Again, we can't really do a whole lot at the moment because we've actually literally we can't move far. We can't just go, okay, that's it. I'm moving to Brisbane because they won't let us in. But it's just actually setting up those physical geographical boundaries. Time, like actually, if you kind of, those people where you love them and you've been in each other's pockets and they may be your best friend, they may be your sister, they may be your mum, but you're like, you know what? I need a bit of space. I need to set some boundaries here and just give yourself time. And that's okay to actually say you need a bit of time. And emotional distance as well is giving your heart some room to heal, to process, to actually go, okay, I'm not sure about this. What's my heart saying? And I think so often and I think as women as well, we're always like, oh, we're so emotional and oh, oh, you can't cry, you can't feel that, but how we're created, and we are emotional beings, and yes, they can definitely get the better of us, which you've all seen very publicly with my meltdowns, but it's something that they're there for a reason, and we should be checking in on them. So, the most basic boundary setting word is no. Can everyone say it? I know that you're all mute, but say no. Um, so this is a very hard word to say, and I do know why because I struggled with it, which I'll share about, but it's a very hard word to say. Um, but by saying no, it actually lets others know that you exist apart from them and that you're in control of you. Okay. But I think the most common reason why we don't say no, because I think there's a lot of negative connotation attached to saying no. So I think when people ask things of us, we feel like saying yes means that we're kind, means that we're giving, means that we love them. So, of course, I'll say yes to whatever you're asking me to do. And I think then on the same, we also associate saying no with, well, that's really harsh, that's really unkind, that means that I don't care about them if I say no, which is actually not true. There's no truth in that, and it really comes down to your intention and your heart, and that's what's the important thing. um, and with that, people care more about your intentions than they care about what you say, whether you say yes or no. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you're saying, and I've done this in the past, so, and I'm sure you guys have as well, where someone invites you to something and you really can't be bothered going, or you really, maybe not can't be bothered. You've got a lot going on, and oh, I feel bad. It's probably usually a family thing, to be honest, because I feel like we get guilted into it. No, I'm just going to say it. We get guilted into a lot of family stuff where sometimes, you know what? You might just not have capacity. You might not have brain space. You might just want to sit at home and spend time with your family and not go down there. But you feel guilted into it. So you say yes and you go, but you have the wrong intention, the wrong heart. You actually are resentful for being there. You do the whole pleasantries and, oh, this is great and stuff, but and you're not only that, you're emotionally and physically drained because you don't want to be there. So by actually saying yes to something, it's with completely the wrong intention and the wrong heart, and it's not doing anything for them. So just say your mum's invited you around for lunch and she wants to cook this, meal or whatever, and you've got a lot going on, but you say yes because, I should because it's my mum. You go there with the wrong heart, the wrong intention. And whereas you could have actually just said, Mum, you know what? I can't, I want to, I would love to, but this weekend's really just not good for me. Can we do another time? And yes, it's saying no, but it's saying it with the right heart and intention. It's not like, Mum, you're annoying the crap out of me. No, I'm not coming. It's actually just saying no, but let's look at another date. And that's okay to do that. Um, so it's less about rules, but where your heart is and when you're enforcing them. So that's the biggest thing, is knowing where your heart is, checking in and going, okay, where am I at? Why am I doing this? And I think, again, a lot of the time we are just in autopilot and we do so much. And I think COVID, and I know we've spoken about this, COVID has shown us how much how much we overcommit. I don't know, does anyone else has recognized that? Yeah. And it's all out of a good heart. You want your kids to do 20 million sports, you want to catch up with your friends, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm someone, as you know, I'm a very social person. So I say yes to a lot of things. But it made me realize, like, oh my gosh, how did I do it all in terms of, like, the kids' sport and this and that, and then, whatever, all of the activities. So it's actually okay to pull back and say no. So, okay, hands up, who who struggles with saying no? Anyone? Beck saying yes, Mel, Lisa, Laura. Um, it's yeah, it's a really hard thing to say, but I really want to, hone in on this to say that it's actually about self-care. It's all this about, oh, it's okay to say no and things like that. But we need to start implementing this in our life. So for me, just from share my personal story. So in the time that we have, I'll give you the abridged version. I've always struggled to say no, and the reason why is because, and I've shared this with you, I'm a massive people pleaser. Christine, no, I don't have trouble saying no, as my beautiful friend Christine. And that's why I love you, Christine. That's why you're my people. And I think that's really powerful where you can say no. But for me, I just always struggled with it. And I literally, whenever I had an invitation, whenever someone asked something of me, like one of my friends, can you help me out with this, Loz? Can you do this? Yes, 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 of course, of course, of course. And I would commit to everything and anything. And I'm someone, like, I do have a really high capacity, which you guys have seen from things that I've done with Mums Who Wine, and I'm kind of always on the go. But I do. I've always said yes to everything. And then I would actually get angry and offended if I would ask something of someone and they would say no. I would honestly be like, how dare they say no to me? I always say yes. I'm always, blah, 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 making time for them. And then if they actually say, oh, sorry, Lois, I can't come to that. I'm like, screw you. Why not? Like, come on, because I was setting my expectations on them. But what I didn't realize is that I had no boundaries. I would do everything for people. People would overstep things, all of the things, because I was, a people pleaser. Whereas they actually just had family boundaries established, which good on them. And it was only in 2010 when I actually did a 12-month leadership course at my church. And I had a mentor, and she, just to help sort of, works through some things. And she actually sat me down and said, do you know that you have no boundaries? And I'm like, what? Of course I do. And she's like, honestly. So she gave me a book, which, if this is resonating with you, there's a book called Boundaries, and it's When to Say Yes, How to Say No, and Take Control of Your Life. So it's by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. If you want details, let me know. It is from a Christian perspective, but it's completely applicable to all areas of life. And so she actually made me sit down and choose 3 days a week, and I had to completely cross those days out, and I wasn't allowed to commit to anything. And if people asked me to do something on those days, I had to say no, and it absolutely killed me. But she's like, you need to learn that these are your days. I want you to stay at home. And obviously I could say no to her, but I wasn't going to. But these are your days where set some clear boundaries so people know that they can't always be asking of you and expecting of you. And you need to learn to say no to things. So for 12 months, I had these 3 days, and it was always awesome invitations that would come, like, you know, things where I knew Mark was at because I had my eye on him, and he'd be at something. I'm like, oh, but Mark's there. And I'm like, no. He's laughing. I'm like, no, I can't go because this is something that I've committed to. Um, Melissa, as I've got older, I've started becoming much better saying no. Turning 40 was when I started putting my foot down. Still not great, but better. It's just progress. Every day is what you can do. Um, but what I discovered in this, and this might be really basic, and you're like, seriously, Loz, did you not realize this? But for someone who has always really struggled with it, when I would say no, people would, they would be okay with it. And often they'd say, oh, we didn't expect you to say yes because we know you're so busy. We just wanted you to know that you're invited, or that I was thinking of you, or that I'd love your help, but I totally get you're really busy. So by actually saying no, like, if someone gets offended with you, that's their issue. That's a whole nother virtual cuppa. But honestly, that's out of your control. If you've set boundaries and said, okay, on these days, so just say Thursday and Saturday are my family day, and nothing is going to impose on that. And I'm setting the boundary of that, and that's my family day. Then if someone asks you to come and do something, you say, look, I would love to, but that's my family day, and I've really set that day aside. Maybe we can look at another day. If they get offended at that, that's their issue. You've set clear boundaries. Um, and one thing that you've probably heard this a lot, but if someone asks you to do something, if it's not a heck yes, well, it's actually if it's not a F yes, but I won't swear on it, it's a heck no. So if someone asks you to do something, and there's obviously a line with like, friends helping and helping your friends, this might be something you don't necessarily want to do, but you want to help. But if someone's doing that and it's like a really, I don't know, just say no. It's okay. Just say, oh, thanks so much for the invite, but no, look, I won't be able to make it. And another thing is you actually don't have to explain why. There's no reason why you have to explain why you're saying no to something, because I feel like we're like, oh, or if we have to, yeah, say no, we're like, oh, look, I really want to, blah, 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 blah. Just say, thank you so much, but I just can't, I can't make it. That's it. If they get offended, that's their issue. If they want to then ask, Rhiannon, I always feel like I need an excuse to say no. And yeah, exactly. That's what I've always been like. I feel like if someone asks me, and I'm still a work in progress, please hear me. Like I have had a lot of victory in this, but it's always an improvement. I feel like we're constantly like, if you can't make it, oh, look, the kids have been really sick and I'm just really exhausted and it's just, da, 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 da. I really want to encourage and empower you guys. Like if someone asks you to do something and you can't, just say, look, I'm sorry, I can't today. Thanks for the offer. That's it. Why do you have to explain yourself? Especially if it's yeah, Christine, I hate saying I'll give it a miss. I'd prefer people to say thanks for the invite, but I can't. Yeah, I can't make it. Yeah, and one thing as well, how many of you commit to something knowing that you really don't want to go and you think, you know what, I think I'll just cancel at the last minute. Isn't that just the worst thing? Like, yeah. And it's okay because we've all done it because we don't want to say no because we don't want an uncomfortable situation. So then you actually say, I'll make it. And then you're like, you know what? I think just at the last minute, I'll say the kids are sick or I've had a really rough night. I'm really tired. When you actually had no intention of going in the first place. So you've actually set that person up. You haven't set your boundaries clear and then you've actually hurt them in the process. Whereas at the start, if you had to just said, look, it's a really busy week, even if you don't have to say that, just say, look, thank you so much. I'm not going to be able to make it, but thank you. Um, One of the biggest things, mindful of time, but the biggest area which I've noticed on personally is when you have a baby and the fact that as mothers, we feel like we cannot say no. When can I come see the baby? Blah, 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 blah. And for me, it was actually a really powerful moment and it gave me a true insight into boundaries. And this can be applied for anything. I'm just talking about my own personal experience with it. Was when I had Ariel, I actually physically was not allowed to have anyone in the hospital. And I know Jade's probably was the same. Yeah. And I'm not sure about Laura. No, I think Laura, it wasn't COVID yet. You were like, yeah. So it was we weren't allowed to have anyone, and so I actually did a live video from the hospital sharing how amazing it was to actually just have that time. I had 4 days with just Mark and I and Ariel. We couldn't even have the boys, but that was okay, they were with Mark's mum. And to not feel that, oh, I don't really want anyone here, but I have to say yes. Yeah, Jade, it was bliss. And I spoke to the obstetricians, I spoke to everyone there. I was like, can you please make this a thing? And they're like, look, we wish we could, but we can't. But I would encourage, and I'm actually going to do some writing and stuff about this, to encourage anyone that has baby to say no to visitors at the hospital and set those boundaries. Laura, I want that next time. Yeah. So I shared personally and said about how amazing it was. I got to, I was struggling with feeding. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, Mark's dad's best mate is coming in and I've got my boobs out and I've got to have to, you're catering to everyone else. I sat there, just cruising around in my bra and my SRC recovery shorts. And I honestly felt so much better for it. And the amount of people that contacted me and said, I wish I could do that, or I wish I could have said no. And it made me, honestly, I reckon I had 100 people comment and say, oh my gosh, I had the worst experience when I was at hospital because people were coming in. I couldn't feed my baby. I was sleep deprived. I'm like, you can say no. You can set that boundary. It's a big boundary, but I know that everyone wants to see the baby. Like, I mean, no one's really seen Ariel still. She's 4 months old. But if you set a really clear boundary with the right heart and intention to say, you know what, I actually really, really love I just really want this time with my husband and my baby, and I want to set that boundary, and that's just family time for us. So maybe in a few weeks once we get home. Beck, I've made a point of not visiting friends with babies in the hospital. I always ask them to let me know when they're settled back home and ready for visitors. I'm exactly the same, Beck. They're like, no, come into hospital. I'm like, no, 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 you have your time. But I know that we've Holly was really good at telling people couldn't have visitors. Yeah, and it's so important. But I think that's a really good example where I feel like we want to say no, and but we're worried about offending people, particularly family. Like, they want to come in and they want to see the baby and they want to do that. Whereas have every right to set clear boundaries and say no, and you're actually better mentally for it, and you're doing it from the right heart and the right intention as well. It's not because you're like, I hate that family member, I don't want them in. It's like, no, I want family time and I want this time alone. And the biggest thing is we need to take responsibility for our behavior and choices. A common problem with not having boundaries is not owning our choices and feeling like we don't have a choice. And this is the biggest thing. And, we can delve into this another time, is feeling like you can't say no. When and I'm just using family as example, like, I'm not, just please hear my heart. I think it's just the easiest thing. When your mother-in-law is like, oh, I'm just going to pop over and, blah, 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 for a visit. And it's like, actually, no, no, thanks. Now's not a good time. Christine, I was so proud of my baby. I want to say, yes, come in and see my new baby. Yeah, well, that's great. And if that's what you want, Chris, that's awesome. And you had cute babies. So, but it is that whatever your choice is, just to own it and to know that you are responsible for your choices, and you need to protect your space, your mental health, your physical boundaries. And that is actually the ultimate act of self care, because by saying no, that means you're not being a horrible person. It doesn't mean you don't love that person. It doesn't mean that you don't want to see that person. It just means that you need to know what is good for you and your family and your time. We're all very time poor. At the moment, we've got a bit more time, but we've got a lot going on. So I just really want to encourage and inspire you to know. And as I said, I'm a work in progress, mainly because I have total FOMO. Like, if I say no to something and then I see there was this epic like party, I'm like, totally should have said yes. But actually being okay with saying no, thank you, but no, I won't make it. And that's okay. And not being like, oh my gosh, what excuse do I need to give? Just say no. That's okay. And actually invest and spend that time investing in your family, or spend that time, even if it's just because you want to sit at home and watch Netflix. That's okay. We're allowed to do that. Beck, with my first, I wish I'd said no to visitors. It was also exhausting and overwhelming. With my second, I was all good and ready for visitors. No one came. Yeah, no, that is as well. That was similar to Billy. But and it is, but obviously, whether you're having a baby or whether you've got a new house or whatever it is, to know that if you don't want everyone around, or if you don't want to commit to this, or your family has a family dinner every Sunday and sometimes it's really, really hard for you to get to, and it's always a struggle and you're always anxious and you're running about, and then your kids, say no. It's okay. Say no. Doesn't mean you love them any less. It just means that you need to set clear boundaries for what works with you and your family. And if anyone has a problem with that, then that is their issue, and they can talk about it with you. Or if they get offended and don't talk to you, then that is also on them. That is nothing to do with you, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. But I hope that helped, guys, because and I think it is a really big topic. I think it's something that we all need to sort of delve into. But I guess final remarks is just to, when something hits you, if someone says something or someone invites you or whatever, and it just something doesn't feel right, or you're feeling like, oh, like that, oh, I don't want to go, or oh, I just can't do it. Know that that's actually your body saying, or body and your spirit and your mind saying, it's okay to say no, and encouraging you to say no and not feel like you need to blame it on the kids, blame it on that. Just say, no, it's just not a good time for me at the moment, and that's okay. And actually looking and setting those boundaries, and it's a work in progress, but being okay with saying no setting what is right for you and your family and for you individually as well, even boundaries with your children, which again is a whole nother story. But you can say no to your children, you can say no to your husband, you can say, I need my time. I know we've spoken about this, but like, I just need 2 hours. I don't need to explain why. I just need 2 hours. I need to go for a walk. That's, that's my boundary. I need to go, and that's okay. And the more that we do that, the more that we check in and regulate our emotions, the more we actually know this and also communicate this with other people, then that means that we will, be happier, be healthier, be mentally better, and our friends and family will know our boundaries. So, like, if you say, look, for us on Sunday, we go to church, so no one invites us to anything on a Sunday morning, or anything like that, because I'm like, I'm sorry, we have church on a Sunday, and that's something that we do. It's part of our life. So we've set that clear boundary, and similarly with whatever family thing you have. So hope that helps, ladies, and thank you for your support as always. Next time you see me, I don't know, I'm thinking about there. I don't know. We'll see. Mark's just like shaking his head, whatever. Anyway, but if you haven't already, please join the VIP Mama list to get all the info on Empowered. I love you, and I will see you on Monday for our mindset session. And if anyone asks you to do something this week and you don't want to do it, say no. It's okay. Say Lauren told me to. No. Have a great day, guys. Love you. Bye.